Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Yes, you got all seasons in your days, don't you? This morning on my morning walk, I had thick woolen gloves and thick woolen tights and thick woolen everything. It also helps to warm up and also helps when you jump out of the creek to put the nice warm woolies on. But I can't even imagine that I was wearing woolly this morning. So we're going to start with a few questions. What are your thoughts about nutritional yeast? I don't use it. I've never used it because you can't kill yeast. And some say, but isn't it high in B vitamins? So are nuts and seeds. So are your whole grains. So I don't use it. I actually like getting my flavours from herbs, good quality salts and good quality oils. And also using good quality ingredients. The organic foods have their own flavour, so that's where I get my flavours from. How to use oregano oil? Very, very slowly and lightly. And in my book Sustain Me, there's a recipe for burning out a skin cancer. It's just putting a drop of oregano oil on it every day. And often within about 2 or 3 weeks the skin cancer's burned out. But it irritates it out. 1 drop on the skin cancer. And taking it by mouth, it's strong antifungal, so it can be part of an antifungal program. But you start with about 2 drops in a little water. So just before a meal 3 times a day. After a couple of days you might go up to 3 drops. If you've got a yeast problem in your body. So what I suggest you do is you alternate your medications. And the medications are the fungal killers. And you might do olive leaf extract for a week or 2. You might do oregano oil for a week or 2. And then you might do grapefruit seed extract for a week or 2. Because the microorganisms adapt and adjust, they're not going to wipe the pathogens out as strongly after a while because they adapt and adjust. So then you change your medication.
Where do you get your olive oil?
Where do I get my olive oil? Well, I'm Australian, so I get Australian olive oil. But, you know, as much as possible get local ingredients. And you want the first cold pressed extra virgin. Where do skin tags come from? What do they signify? Well, you can hypothesise on that one. Strange things are growing on people's bodies today. Lipomas, for example. What's a lipoma? It's like a little fatty lump on the body. And the doctor can cut it out and guess what? It'll grow back again. What is it? Well, there are a few hypotheses. One hypothesis is, and you saw yesterday afternoon when I looked at the liver, how the fat cells store environmental poisons. So it could be a little lump of environmental poisons that the body is storing there. Castor oil compresses certainly may break it down. Going through a detox like we looked at yesterday, and seriously addressing what your body's exposed to as well, in your home, in the food you eat, etc., etc. Skin tags, another thing that there might be a few hypotheses about, but we are exposed to so many environmental poisons. We live in an incredible body with an inbuilt ability to adapt and adjust, and it adapts and adjusts in different ways with different people. But a drop of castor oil every day can little by little quite possibly soften that one down. What should we take for memory loss? Well, we've got to put the investigative hat on and find out why there is memory loss. Is it lack of sleep? Is it lack of hydration? Is it overwork? Too much time in front of the computer? There can be a few things that contribute to that, but a big contributing factor is the statin drugs. Also, our brain needs exercise. How do we exercise it? We challenge it. We challenge it by learning new things. We challenge it by learning a musical instrument, learning a new language, start memorising little Bible verses that you love. That's challenging the brain. Many people stop challenging the brain when they get into maybe their 30s and 40s. So we should be learning new things right up until the day we die. There are 2 herbs that are supposedly help. One's ginkgo biloba and the other is gochukola. Gochukola, yeah. Not Coca-Cola, gochukola. G-O-T-U-K-O-L-A. Gochukola. How do you improve brain fog and memory issues? Brain fog, a very common symptom of a gluten intolerance is brain fog. And a lot of people don't even realise they've got brain fog till they stop wheat. And it's a good idea to stop it for 2 months and just watch what happens. One lady said, I can't believe my energy once I stopped. Now you can have a slice of bread, it'll be out of your body in 24 hours, but the effect can remain for sometimes 2 months. So you've got to give it a little bit of time. So what I say is don't start until you've got your cupboards, your freezer well stocked, got some simple needs in your fridge, bread, and some brown rice pasta in your cupboard. So just looking at getting everything ready, make a decision, write on the calendar, and give yourself 2 months. What do you do after 2 months? I'll leave it up to you. Do you think castor oil is strong enough to heal bags and dark circles under the eyes? Again, we have to look at some of the causes for that. Dark circles under the eyes can often be kidney. So what harms the kidneys is stimulants. Dehydration calms the kidneys, so it's looking at giving the kidneys the right conditions and maybe implementing some celery seeds, celery in your diet, and parsley. That helps the kidney. You can try the castor oil. Could I use it as an eye cream? You certainly can. It feels a little bit sticky. It takes about 20 minutes to soak through, but it eventually does soak through. Thoughts on Montana? Matona? No, M-A-T-O-N-A. Or green or black tea. Is the caffeine a better source because it's from a herb? No, it's not. Caffeine is caffeine. And the problem with the black tea and the green tea, it also has tannin in it. And they're all dehydrating agents. We had a lady attend our program who was having 5 green teas a day. Wow, did she suffer? She suffered keenly. She got terrible headaches. And after she'd recovered, she said, I'm annoyed. I only started drinking green tea because they said it was health food. Well, it is high in antioxidants, but Roundup's 99% water, so do we drink Roundup? So, yes, the whole thing has to be good. Do they have an acid effect? They do. Have you experienced much with mushrooms and the medicinal properties they have, such as lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, etc.? No, I have not used them. I don't doubt that they may be beneficial in some ways. Fungus is an interesting thing. It's sort of not a plant and it's not an animal. It's off in a whole section by itself. Do I eat mushrooms? I do sometimes, but if I had a fungal problem, I'd put that on hold, and maybe that's why I haven't explored them. So my aim is to grab a few questions before every lecture, and what we're going to be having a look now is respiratory. So respiratory meaning the sinus areas, the nose, the sinus, the throat, the trachea, the lungs, so this whole area here. And I'm going to begin by telling you a story of a lady who attended our program a few years ago now, and she must have been late 30s, and she came because she had terrible sinus pain, really bad sinus pain, so bad that it was giving her daily headaches. And because she had pain all the time, she could hardly function, and she could only function if she was taking the headache tablets, and then that dehydrated her even more. There's this vicious cycle that begins with medication. Every medication has a side effect. There is no medication without a side effect. But it's all she knew. And so she came wanting help to see if we could help with this. And when I looked at her diet, because she was in so much pain, she was eating a high carbohydrate diet, so high wheat, and to get herself going in the morning, she'd have coffee, and in the coffee she always put some milk, so we'll say dairy, and she always put some refined sugar because that just, gave her a little bit of a lift. And just the quick, easy breakfast was oats, and she often just had bread with peanut butter. So she was having all the common allergen foods. And at our retreat we don't use any of those foods. And what I did was I got her to sniff a little golden seal. Golden seal is a remarkable herb, and it has a nickname. I'll give you its nickname because I like to know the specific for each herb. And its nickname is the king. It's the king of tonics to all mucous membranes. So wherever you've got a mucous membrane, this golden seal to mucous membranes, it has a tonic effect. Now I was having lunch with a group of people today, and forgive me, I'm not real great at remembering all your names, and the guy next to me, he showed me a powder that you can use for your teeth, to clean your teeth, and it had golden seal in it. So that was a good one. Where's my friend that I sat next to at lunchtime? Because what's our mouth lined with is mucus. And as king of tonics to all mucous membranes, but not only that, very strong antimicrobial. It's antibiotic, it's antibacterial, it's antifungal. But the beauty of herbs is they're not going to kill off your good bacteria in your gut. Remember Psalm 104 verse 14? God gave herbs for the service of man, they work with the body. So golden seal, just while we're on it, if someone has a urinary tract infection and they drink or take a tablet or a capsule of the golden seal, it comes out in the urine. So it helps to conquer urinary tract infection. In my book Sustain Me, in the kidney area with UTIs, I go there and show you that. If someone's got irritable bowel, we put a little bit of golden seal with the slippery elm. Remember we talked about slippery elm? Because it's the king of tonics to mucous membranes down there, yes?
Is it, does it need to be the leaf or the root?
It's the root. The root. It's a very expensive herb. In fact, every time I come to America, the staff in Australia are saying, please get us some golden seal, because we can't get it in Australia at the moment. Because apparently it takes 7 years to harvest, and they're the finest little roots. So, but it's such a remarkable herb, and you only need a tiny little bit of it. Also, you'll notice in my chapter on eyes, I put it in the eye wash for the eyes, because anywhere where you've got mucus, it has an effect to be king of tonics to all mucous membranes. And so with this lady, with her severe sinus problems, we got her to sniff it. Now the best way to do it, and you might laugh at this, is you put a tiny little mound on a plate and get a straw. And you. One lady said, this reminds me of my teenage years sniffing cocaine. And maybe that's one of the reasons why she had such bad sinus. No, the cocaine is not a tonic to the mucous membranes, it's a toxin to the mucous membrane. It eats them out. I've even known people after many years of sniffing to, the whole area. Not a nice thing, but got it to do that, say 3 times a day, and you only sniff up the tiniest little pinch. And you sniff slowly. If you Sniff big, it'll feel like someone's just blown the top of your head off. Just sniff very slowly. It's a very bitter herb. And so when you sniff it and you taste bitterness in the back of your throat, you know it's hit the mark. So that's what we got her to do. She did the 2 days on juicing, and just the sniffing and the steam saunas, her sinuses were starting to clear. She said, I'm blowing green out of my nose. So because of the pain there, what was the pain from? It was from build-up in there. What was the build-up? The build-up is many years of mucus, often excess mucus because of an allergy to these, and then the microorganisms that are living in our sinuses, they start to change roles and become the clean-up team. And what's that? That's the bacteria and the fungus. So you get this vicious cycle. We had an ear, nose and throat specialist nurse do our program. She said, you wouldn't believe the green slime we pull out of sinuses. And she said, every doctor, every specialist says it's fungus. They know it's fungus. And I was reading a report of, in 1990, a group of doctors in the Mayo Clinic stated that they found that sinus was caused by fungus up in the sinus. But my question is, why is it there? It's usually there because of an allergy. And when a person's got an allergy, they'll have excess mucus there. And so the mucus hangs around, and then the person can't breathe through their nose, so they start breathing in their mouth. And when they breathe through their mouth, their air's not being purified. You get this vicious cycle.
How often would you do the golden seal?
How often would you do the golden seal? Well, I'll leave it up to you. If you find that it brings relief, I mean, you can do it 3 times a day. So it's up to you. And you do it as long as it takes. If you find the nose, it's all clear and you've got no problems, no need to do it anymore. So your body's response is your guide. Your body can tell you what I can't tell you. Your body can tell you what no man can tell you. You watch your body's response to it.
Will that work with a cold as well?
Will it work with a cold? Not necessarily. Did you know that a cold is a house clean? It's a house clean. That's what it is. It's cleaning the house. It's cleaning the house. So in 1940, the Common Cold Research Unit was set up in Salisbury, England, to find the cause and the cure of the common cold. Well, after 40 years, they closed down because of a total failure to find the cause and the cure of the common cold. They never will. It's a house clean. So when you're blowing your nose and coughing up, what are you coughing up? Waste, waste, waste. And better out than in. And if you handle that cold well, you'll feel better after the cold than you felt before it. Because it's just a house clean. That's why they'll never find the cause and the cure of the common cold. And so on my morning walk this morning, I was so happy. I think I coughed up 5 lumps. I'd done oil pulling where I went. Some people say, what was that? Say, it was better out than in. And because I travel such a lot and I'm breathing in plane fumes, there's got to be a little bit of house cleaning. And if I didn't do my morning walk, and if I didn't do my oil pulling, where would it stay? And then I'd have to get a cold to get rid of it. So you can greatly reduce the frequencies of colds by looking after the body, giving it the right conditions. Have you noticed how often children get colds? Do you know it's building up their immune system? They're little house cleans, because even these little children, they're not living in a perfect planet. And you look at what they dress children in. A lot of nylon, acrylic, polyester. Look at you call them diapers. What are the diapers made out of? Yeah, plastic, chemicals. I never put them on my children. I just use the cloth nappies. That's all I ever put on my children. So children getting colds, it's actually building up their immune system. Gary Martin, he's the health director at a health retreat in Australia. He said, I found 2 common things with people that get cancer. They never get colds and they don't drink enough water. Waste is building up in the body, so the body has to use some systems to clean it up. Let's just regularly house clean the body. Because this is a living machinery, and if the waste doesn't get out, then you've got another problem of sometimes disease develops because of built up waste in the body. So let's get back to the lady that did our program. Pardon? You name it. You name it. You name it. They're very high in lectins. You name it. What about gluten-free oats? What about it? It's the same. It's all the same. You see, oats don't have gluten. So gluten-free oats is just a marketing thing. What they do have is lectins in them. And as I said, my 3 sons have oats for breakfast every day. They love it. Sits well with them. So you're the guide there. What works for you? But we don't serve oats at our retreat because we find about 30% of people we find don't do well with it. So again, you're the doctor. If it works, do it. There's no hard and fast rule because we're not hard and fast people. There's no one like you. Even identical twins, we find there's differences there. My daughter's got twin girls. They're like chalk and cheese. Came from the post, same parents. And that's why you're the doctor. Because often you'll find today, you go to the doctor, you've got a set of symptoms, they give you a title, is that right? No matter who you are, no matter your age, no matter your background, no matter your history, no matter your genetics, that's why we each should be our own doctor. And our body will tell us what no tests can tell us, our body will tell us what no specialist can tell us. It's time to trust and have faith in this incredible body. So back to the lady with the sinus, yes?
How often do you do your oil pulling?
How often do I do my oil pulling? I do my oil pulling every morning before breakfast. If I had infected gums or bleeding gums, I might do it 3 times a day. One of the guys I was sitting next to at lunchtime, he said that it was a game changer for him. How was it within a week the gums were clearing up just from oil pulling. How many times a day are we doing it? Twice a day. He was doing it twice a day. So again, these are maintenance programs for us, maintenance programs to keep our machinery running well.
Barbara, what about the golden seal? Can you take that in a capsule and have it be...
Can you take it in a capsule? Well, when a person's got sinus, you want it to touch the sinus. You want to sniff it up in there to take it. You might take it in a capsule or a tablet if you're wanting to heal urinary tract infection, if you want it to be touching the colon. So it depends why you're using it. It's very expensive. There's no need to take it every day. You just take it when it's necessary.
You just take it out of the capsule.
You could, yeah.
What about in liquid form?
What about a liquid form? You could sniff it in a liquid form. You could make a golden seal tea and sniff it. Yep. Yep. Also seawater. Seawater is good to sniff up there. Yeah. So what this lady did, by the end of the week she was very happy. She was no more getting headaches and she was starting to be able to breathe a lot clearer. Do you know one of the best ways to be able to breathe through your nose if you're struggling is to tape your mouth up? Because when you tape your mouth up, your body's going to want oxygen. And did you know that the more you breathe through your mouth and the less you breathe through your nose, the little canals at the back of your nose start closing up? It's a very good illustration. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So my son Peter, he likes the Wim Hof breathing techniques, you know, and he actually sells big tubs where you can fill with ice and do ice dunks, and he sells rebounders in Australia. Well, his little girl, Sophia, she was with me when I broke my arm, and it was incredibly painful, and I've got it in a rock pool, wondering what I'm going to do next because there's a long way over the sand to where the road is. And she's in front of me, she's 8, she's going, breathe Nana, 5 in, hold your breath, 5 out. Her father has taught her breathing techniques to cope with stress. Isn't that incredible? What a wonderful tool to teach children. And I've seen her brother Lennox is 6 and he can be a little irritating, and I've seen her go like this dealing with her brother. How nice. And so she stayed with me in April, and I put her to bed one night. She said, "Nan, have you got any tape? I've got to tape my mouth up." She said, "Masking tape will do," and she put the tape like this. I looked down at her, she smiled, nodded, and off to sleep. Mouth taped up. She said, "I've got a bit of a cold, it'll help me breathe through my nose." That's my son's daughter. What we can teach the children, just imagine if we knew these techniques from a young age, they're invaluable. Now you don't quite have to do that, but what you can do to encourage nose breathing is to tape your mouth, just a little bit of tape from under your nose to your chin. And you can do that for an hour a day, and after a week you can keep it on all night. And that encourages nose breathing. Do you know, to just about end snoring and sleep apnea? Interesting. So let's go back to the lady before we go into more detail with the nose. So with this lady, she left us for home very happy, and she had a little packet of her golden seal powder. I didn't hear her again. 2 years later, this lady came to our retreat. She said, "Hi, remember me?" I said, "I'm trying." I didn't recognise her. She'd lost 20 pounds. She had a very nice outfit on. She looked like a totally different woman. Her face was clear. Do you know, when she came, the face was puffy, and because she was breathing through her mouth, it causes the jaw to drop. Do you know the roof of the mouth drops? All these different processes happen when you breathe through your mouth. And I said, "Wow, you're looking good." She said, "I'm feeling good." She said, "I'm here not because I need to be here, but I'm just having a little rest. And I know at your retreat I'll get the best food, I'll get great massages, I'll have a great little detox. And I also wanted to tell you the effect that this has had on me." She said, "I have not had one headache tablet since I left here 2 years ago." She said, "My sinuses are totally clear." She said, "My mother was getting really concerned. She reckoned I was losing too much weight. She insisted I have a blood test, so I had a blood test." She said, "The doctor rang me the next day and said, 'I'm just ringing you because this is the best blood result I've ever seen.'" And she was just doing the simple sustain me methods. So the ear, nose and throat specialist nurse, so when people come in and go under anaesthetic, like general anaesthetic, and have all this green slime pulled out of their noses, when they wake up, their noses are pretty sore for a while because of the pulling out of all their stuff, and then they go back, and what do? They go back and eat all the things that caused it, because the doctor does not tell them, doctor does not know, they don't know. This is a question that should be asked at every step, but is rarely asked. Why? Why is there mucus building up in here? Let's make some adjustments and see if we can fix this. One lady said, "Well," she said, "I stopped it all for 2 weeks and it made no difference." I said, "No, it's going to take 2 months." Take 2 months to get the effect of those completely out of your body. So let's have a look at nose. Nose purifies the air. It's your own personal air purifier. It's your own personal air conditioner. Your own personal air humidifier is nose. But nose also balances blood gases. What are blood gases? But it pressurizes the air, making it perfect for the lungs. Let's have a look at the blood gases. One blood gas is oxygen, so that's no surprise at all. Another blood gas is carbon dioxide. Wrong way. So what's carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is the gaseous waste from the combustion of glucose and oxygen in the cell. The other blood gas that it balances is nitric oxide. We heard a lot about nitric oxide. There were some doctors that were spraying nitric oxide in the nose for COVID patients. Did you hear that? Yes. That's what one doctor was doing. So nose breathing balances that. How? So let's begin in the lungs. Here's the lungs, and the trachea splits, and then it goes into little bronchioles, and at the end of every little bronchiole you've got what looks like a little bunch of grapes, and they're alveoli. So let's magnify the alveoli. Here's the alveoli, and they're, well, I read about 10 years ago we've got 300 million, but in the book Breath by James Nestor, one of the doctors claims we've got 500 million, but the fact is we've got a lot. Did you know that every cigarette smoked causes the loss of one alveoli? So over the alveoli there's a little blood capillary network, and this is where the gaseous exchange takes place. We have 100 trillion cells in the body. We have 75 trillion that are running, like I have shown you, the inside of the cell, but 25 trillion red blood cells. And on a red blood cells there's 270 million hemoglobin. And every hemoglobin has 4 docking sites for oxygen. So let's draw, here's the 4 docking sites for oxygen on the hemoglobin. So when we breathe in and the air goes in, there's a gaseous exchange from the hemoglobin right here. And if we have 2, we'll do carbon here, CO2. If we only have 2 carbon dioxides, only 2 oxygens can be picked up. But if we have 4 carbon dioxides, then 4 oxygens can be picked up. And when we breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, we lose too much carbon dioxide. Got that? And if we lose too much carbon dioxide, we don't have enough carbon dioxide on the docking sites to pick up the oxygen we need. But when you breathe in and out through your nose balances those blood gases. It keeps those carbon dioxide levels at the level they should be so we can access oxygen. More carbon dioxide means more oxygen pickup. Yes, you can overdo carbon dioxide, and some people sadly have committed suicide by putting the carbon monoxide into the coat, but you can also have not enough carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is balanced by the nose. There's more. Here's the cell wall. On the cell wall, if there's 4 carbon dioxides coming out, then 4 oxygens can come into the cell. So the gaseous exchange not only takes place in there, in the alveoli, but also on the cell wall. And what they found is that, say when you're exercising, say I'm running up and down hills, probably the muscles I'm using the most are my quads and my calves. And what they found is that the cells that make up those muscles are able to pick up more oxygen. Why? Because they're giving off more carbon dioxide. So the muscles that are used predominantly in exercise, they found, are getting more oxygen. Because they're being used more, they're giving off more carbon dioxide, and more carbon dioxide coming off means more oxygen getting in. And this is the CBD. And remember that 8-step pathway? That 8-step pathway we all want that gives us 36 units of energy? That only works with oxygen. So the more oxygen going into the cell, the more energy that you will experience. The hardest part is when you're exercising. That's the hardest time to breathe in through the nose, because you will feel, I'll get more air if I go, yeah, but it's actually not getting into the blood and it's not getting into the cell. But if you can keep your mouth closed and breathe in and out only through your nose, you're going to get more oxygen in there, because that nose will maintain the carbon dioxide levels. When you breathe in and out through your nose, it causes a release in the sinus as nitric oxide. When you breathe through your mouth, no nitric oxide. So nose breathing is essential. And Rome wasn't built in a day. You can train yourself into nose breathing. So last year I climbed up. Well, I didn't climb the whole way. We drove up so far, but we're up in Emerald Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park, 12,000 feet. And so about the last hour, I was walking with these two young guys. They were ahead of me. They just kept turning around. Yeah, I'm still there. And we only did nose breathing. And you know what you'll find when you only nose breathe, and you're getting challenged because you're starting to breathe very deeply, you actually feel more energy. And you're getting more energy because more oxygen is getting into the cell, giving you more energy. And we finally got up the top, and when we got up to Emerald Lake, there was snow on the edges, and we looked at each other, nodded, and we just dived straight into Emerald Lake. Oh, because we were so hot. Yeah, we took half our clothes off so that we could put some dry clothes back on. Oh, that is the best diving in cold water when you are so hot from exercise. So when I was in Peru, Sacred Valley, right up in the Andes, and we went up to the Pisac ruins. Now the Pisac ruins, when you get up to the top of there's a point there that's 3,500 metres above sea level. And there's all these signs saying, be mindful that you're going to get very tired and breathless because it's so high. And everyone said, Barbara, just go slowly because you're going to get breathless. I said, righto. Anyway, I forgot about that and just kept climbing and going up and up. I didn't even get breathless at all. And I thought, why don't I get breathless where everyone's standing around going like this? All I can think is it's because I exercise every day and I've trained myself to only nose breathe. Because I just walked straight up. It didn't stop. Now, my body is no different to anyone else's body. It's not genetics. It's just what you do to your body. And it's also another illustration as how we can get so much more out of life. It's another illustration that everything we need, we have. It's just changing the way we breathe. There's more. Carbon dioxide and nitric oxide are vasodilators. What's a vasodilator? A vasodilator is something that opens the blood vessels. So when the blood vessels are opened, you know what you've got? You've got a better delivery of blood going through the whole body. What does that mean? More nutrition, more water, more oxygen, more waste being taken away. So they have an effect on the body to open the blood vessels. Carbon dioxide, it's also a bronchodilator. Bronchodilator is something that opens the bronchioles, which is something very important for asthmatics. Because when someone has asthma, they're given Ventolin, and Ventolin is a bronchodilator. Because with asthmatics, the bronchioles shrink up, actually swell up a little bit. It's very hard to breathe, very hard to get that air, that breath out. And there is a very famous Russian professor called Professor Buteyko. He's long dead now, but the Buteyko method of breathing is a well-accepted method of breathing to help someone who's having an asthma attack. And what they do, and this is when they're having the asthma attack, it's a form of shallow breathing and holding onto the carbon dioxide. And what that does is that relaxes smooth muscles, opens the bronchioles, and it has the same effect as Ventolin. And Ventolin, the drug Ventolin that's given to asthmatics, do you know what its side effect is? It reduces lung capacity. And what do asthmatics need? More lung capacity. So if you're an asthmatic or you know anyone who's an asthmatic, my recommendation is stop the allergens that are the most common at, you can call them mucus forming foods. So instead of wheat, you can have spelt. Instead of coffee, you can have dandelion coffee. And the dandelion coffee will strengthen your kidney and strengthen your kidneys. Instead of dairy, well, as I said, I don't even have any milk. But if you want milk for something, there's almond milk, there's organic soy milk, there's coconut milk. Refined sugar, you can use maple syrup, honey. Oats, a great alternative to oats can be millet, makes a nice breakfast. Peanuts, you can use almond butter, cashew butter. There's a whole lot of things. If you come to Australia, you can taste macadamia butter. So there's lots of alternatives that you can use today. So stopping those foods is an important part of releasing the mucus from those mucous membranes. But just breath, just changing the way that you breathe, and you'll get better at it. And God's LSD is long, slow, deep. So breathe from your abdominal muscles. To be able to breathe from your abdominal muscles, you have to have an erect form or a straight back. And to have a straight back, do you know what's one of the biggest contributors to having a straight back is strong core muscles. Because all your core muscles are connected to your spine. And when you strengthen your core, that's a nice easy way to keep your spine straight, and then you can breathe with your abdominal muscles, long, slow, deep. Something else which is very interesting is high chest breathers. Breathing like that high chest, that stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, and your sympathetic nervous system is your fight and flight. So you find if someone's having a panic attack, how are they breathing? Well, if you come across someone having a panic attack, the first thing you do, don't tell them, shut your mouth, right? Please close your mouth. And breathe through your nose, and you touch them. And you squeeze their shoulders, and you're firm, you don't hurt them, and you smile, and you have your voice slow and calm. So you're right. Just breathe through your nose, only your nose. Breathe deeply, long, slow, deep. When you breathe long, slow, deep through your nose, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And your parasympathetic nervous system is your peaceful, calming nervous system. I was in Wales and a lady said to me, Barbara, quick, this lady's having a panic attack. She just went into one of the little cabins and she smelt mould and she's all stressed out. And there she was in the chair. First thing you do, touch her. Smile. You've got a voice that is calming. It's all right, it's all right. Squeeze those muscles, relax them. Now just keep your mouth closed. Breathe through your nose, long, slow, deep, big, slow breaths. And then someone who was helping, I said, I'm going to put can I put some Celtic salt on your tongue? Yeah, 3 magnesium. Magnesium is a muscle relaxant. And then get her to drink water. Our brain is a hydroelectric system, and it needs water, and that fluid where that hydroelectric system is working is a salt water. So see, these very simple things. And I think it was about 2 minutes and she totally calmed down. Just because we changed breath, changed the way she breathed, and also the salt and the water. And it's also a distraction for her. Anyway, the word must have gone out what happened, because 2 days later another lady's having a panic attack. Barbara, can you come to this lady? And it was asthma. And she was very panicking. Same thing, I just touched her, I squeezed her arms. It's all right, just keep your mouth closed, breathe long, slow, deep through your mouth. Nose, Just all nose, in and out, stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And the doTERRA, you familiar with doTERRA essential oils? doTERRA essential oils have something called peppermint beadlets. And I had one of those peppermint beadlets in my handbag. I said, I always ask permission, can I put a peppermint beadlet on your tongue? She nodded. I put it on her tongue, and it takes about 10 seconds and it bursts. And I could see it burst because she went, and this peppermint, you know what peppermint does? It just, the fumes open up. And again, it was only about 2 or 3 minutes and she was totally calm. And she just said, I have never come out of an attack like that so quickly. I said, what do you usually do? And she got into a pocket and she got out some tablets. So I had my iPad there. I quickly Googled the tablets and I related to her the side effects. She said, I've got all of those. I've got all of those. Such simple things, just using breath, using the essential oil peppermint. And doTERRA also have a product called Breathe Easy. And you can put a few drops on and then breathe in. But I have found with many people with asthma, stopping those foods is very important, because asthma is an allergy. And the allergy can be to chemical exposure, it can be to mold exposure, and it also can be allergy to those foods. So if someone has asthma, you immediately start to look at where they're sleeping, having a look at their bed. It's like this lady rang me up. She said, my little boy, we're going to hospital twice a week with severe asthma attacks. So I immediately investigate, because there's always a reason. I said, where does he sleep? Oh, he sleeps on the bottom bunk. Where's the room? Oh, it's at the back of the house. Does it get sun? No, it doesn't. I said, does it sustain any water damage in the rain? She said, actually, yes. And I said, and what's the mattress like above him, because he's on the bottom bunk? She said, actually it got a little damp not long ago and a bit of mould got there, but we did wash it and put it in the sun. You can't kill mould. You can't kill it. You gotta, you know what the Bible says, if mould's in the cloth, burn it. Mould's in the house, destroy the house. Well, actually you don't have to destroy the house. You find out why it's there, fix the leaking tap or the guttering that's full of leaves, and open up the rooms, get the fans on, clean it with white vinegar and maybe some clove essential oil. But if it grows back, if you can't stop it, you might have to destroy the house. But we try and save it first. So I said to so you can imagine with this little boy on the bottom bunk, every time the little boy, who's 2 years older than him, moves on the top bunk, what's coming down? Mold dust is coming down. And this little boy's breathing it in, and then it's a poison to his lungs, so his lungs constrict, and then he has, in an attempt to stop that coming in, and then he's got all the symptoms of asthma. Now, they lived in the country. I said, when you get off the phone to me, can you actually get your older sons to get that mattress, drag it out into the paddock and put a match to it? Burn it. Because if it's got mould in it, you got to get rid of it, because it's a toxic poison. And I said, your lounge room, you've got a lounge in there, is it the sunny room? She said it is. Well, let the little boy sleep in the lounge room overnight. Well, no more did they take that little boy to hospital, because no more did he have asthma attacks. It was purely mould. Sometimes it can be chemical. So you've got to have a look at your bedding, have a look at where it's when the asthma attack happens. And I thought it was something in the bedroom, because it only happens in the middle of the night. Probably when the big brother moves and there's a shower of mould coming down. So that's why investigation is so important, because it can be different in different cases. My father had asthma, and it wasn't until the age of 50 he finally discovered the role that dairy plays, and he stopped dairy. And he had no more asthma. My younger sister, I'm one of 5 children, I'm the second eldest, I'm the eldest girl. My younger sister, I used to look after her, she was my baby, I was 8 when she was born. Terrible asthma. I remember the ambulance coming to our house several times to take her to hospital. And of course, what did they do? They just put her on Ventolin, they had her on steroids, sprays. Whew. And it wasn't until she was about 40 and she stopped the wheat. She'd already stopped the dairy, but she had to stop the wheat too, and she discovered the Buteyko method of breathing. So finally, at the age of 40, she came off her Ventolin. So imagine my concern when my 5th child got a cold at about 10 months and went into severe breathing distress. In fact, it's a scary thing to watch your child unable to breathe. So we rushed him to hospital. I could tell by the look on the doctor's face that my child was extremely ill. What do? They just give him Ventolin. And I noticed with my son, if I just held him and kept him calm, his whole poor little body would thump with every breath. Very scary thing. No, his nostrils would flare with every breath. So he was diagnosed with severe physiological asthma. So it's interesting with the genetics, isn't it? My father, he had 5 children, but only one. I had 6 children, but only one. Only one got it. But what are you going to do? Well, I read an article in the newspaper that said Ventolin reduces lung capacity, and I thought the very drug they're giving my son is actually weakening his chest. I think about 4 times we might have rushed him to hospital just for the fearing of the saving of his life. So then I went to a naturopath, and then the naturopath told me some hot and cold water treatments that I could do on his chest, hot cloths and then ice cold cloths, we alternated it. And also I was to give him an enema, just a warm water enema. We distracted him with his brother's submarine motor. I could have done anything to him. He wasn't allowed to touch his brother's submarine, and here he was holding it. Couldn't believe it. I could have done anything to him. So I just slipped in about a cup of warm water and massaged his tummy while he's just looking at the propeller going round and round on the little submarine motor, and then just sat him on a pot, and that caused the emptying of the bowels. Breathing distress went from 24 hours to 5 hours. I was impressed. I hadn't seen anything have an effect like this did. So that was about 14 months. So what we found, every time Peter got a cold, within 24 hours he was in severe breathing distress. So whenever he'd get a cold, I would only feed him watermelon. He was still breastfed at the time. And I'd give him some herbs, and the naturopath got me to give him a herb called Slipryelm. Now, we talked about Slipryelm. It coats and soothes the lining of the gut, but it also coats and soothes the lining of the throat. So I was to give him Slipryelm, and it was probably about 1 small teaspoon, and licorice. Licorice powder is quite a sweet powder, so it was probably 1 small teaspoon of Slipryelm and 1/4 teaspoon of the licorice powder. So they're both powders, and I'd mix that in maybe 1/2 cup of hot water. And Peter quite liked this. So it soothed his chest, and every time he got a cold, the breathing distress was a bit less, went from 5 hours to 4 hours. The next one, it went to 2 hours. So it got less and less and less. And these foods, of course, were eliminated. But we had a herb growing around our...
Barbara, you talked about the foods on the right. What's the timelines of each one of those through the cycle when they're gone in the body? You said it takes 2 months.
Yeah, it takes about 2 months. Obviously the refined sugar, when you stop that, you've got an effect straight away. But I find with these other ones, the coffee, you know, within 24 hours it can be out. But these, so the peanuts and the oats, the dairy and the wheat, they the full effect can sometimes be 2 months.
The
Because
biggest challenge I've seen in my practice is that trying to get people to be consistently for
That's
over a
right.
month.
That's right.
They hit the
And
month mark and they're so happy it's ridiculous.
that's right. They're so happy that
They go back drinking.
yeah, but what I say is, I say put it on the calendar. Put it on the calendar, and people like challenges. And I show them 1 Thessalonians 5:21, where the Bible says, prove all things. Prove it. Who do you prove it to? Yourself. Prove it to yourself. If someone says to me, my mother went to a retreat and she stopped all this stuff and started herbs and she got so much better, but she's gone back to her old ways. What should she do? Well, what should she do, students?
Go back to their herbs.
What's the old saying? Go back to the place where you last saw light. Yeah, they don't need my advice. They already know. They already know what to do. So plantain was growing everywhere. I see it all around here, the broadleaf plantain. It basically looks like that. It's also called ribwort, and it has a seed head that looks like that. And plantain was growing everywhere, so I looked up in the herb book, and it's a expectorant. It's a herb that you can use for the chest. So whenever Peter got a cold, I would gather heaps of it. I'd pour boiling water on it. I'd use so many leaves, the water was black. When I strained the leaves out, I'd squeeze lemon in and put a little honey in it, and it'd go clear again. And because I only ever gave my children water, this was a real treat. And Peter would drink, drink, drink. And I think that's the other thing that helped him. So at the age of 2.5, I was 9 days over, my baby was due, my 6th baby, and Peter got a cold. And 12 hours later I went into labour. So what I was challenged with here was fear. Was fear. What if Peter goes into severe breathing distress, he's 2.5, while I'm in heavy labour? And you know, when little ones are sick, there's only one person they want, and that's their mum. And Peter and I were very close because I had kept him so close whenever he was sick, so he really held on to me. But you know what God said in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7? He says, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power. And what's power? Education is power. Love is trust. And a sound mind. You know what a sound mind said? I've done everything humanly possible for my son. Now I've got to trust. He never went into breathing distress, and he never went into breathing distress again. So my father conquered it at 50, my sister conquered it at 40, and we conquered Peter's when he was 2.5. And that's how I know that genetics may load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So again, you're getting back to this body. When it's given the right conditions, it starts to heal and it brings back balance.
Did you say it was plantain root that you were using?
No, it's the leaf.
The leaves.
Yep, we used to just pick the leaves. So that's cheap medicine because it's growing everywhere. It grows on the side of the road. And if you take one of those seed heads home with you, well, it's going to grow everywhere. But it's a great herb for the chest. So when my eldest was, Emma must have been 5, James 3, and whooping cough went round all the community, and they cough and they cough. It's called the 100-day cough. And why it's called whooping cough is they cough, 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 and they that's the whoop. And it can be quite scary because when they're coughing, it's like they're not going to get any air, and they take the air, so they get very distressed with it. So I started boiling up the plantain, and they had tea parties with special little kids' teacups, and I got them special straws, and I just gave them so much plantain. And because they're used to water, they loved this because they had a little bit of honey and lemon in it. It was a bit more special. Within 2 weeks, my children did not have the whooping cough. And all the other children are coughing. And their father said to me, I don't want you mixing with those children. You've conquered yours. We don't want them to get it again. And so my friend said, what did you do? And when I told them, they walked away very sad because their children are used to soda pops and juices and they're not going to drink plantain tea. Best thing to give children is water. And if all you give them is water from when they're little, do you know they're quite happy with water. But if my children got a cold, they'd usually always fast for the day. They'd fast for the day, then they could have some juices. And then it's like a special treat. So the simple herbs plantain, and that's what I have seen in my life, that these things can be conquered. But you've always got to find out why they're there. And if someone's getting a lot of colds, you've got to start to look at why. Are they exposed to chemicals? Are they exposed to molds? Are they taking the food that is irritating? So you've always got to investigate. In case of sickness, in page 127 of the Ministry of Healing, the author says, in case of sickness first, ascertain the cause. Because if you don't find the cause, you won't have a cure. And if you don't turn the tap off, you're still going to be mopping up in the other corner. And everyone's looking for a wonder cure, isn't that true? And that's why when I tell people what I did for asthma, they're very sad. When I tell people what I did for the whooping cough, they're very sad because it takes a bit of work. But the naturopath came to me when Peter was 5 and he said, Barbara, I'm about to speak at the Asthma Foundation. Peter is the worst case I have ever seen. And I remember the naturopath said, everything you're doing for Peter, he'll be as strong as an ox. You should see him today. He's as strong as an ox. He said, I'm going to the Asthma Foundation. He said, you know more than me now. Now this is a trained naturopath and I'm just a little mother in the rainforest. And what did he say to me? You know more than me now. How do you learn? You learn by doing it. You learn by doing it and observing what works. That's the best learning curve. Practical education far exceeds any other type of education. You just do it. So when you go home, I'm sure you're going to be looking for people with broken ankles, looking for people that are going, because that's how you try. Anyway, I told him what I did. I guess the plantain was something that he hadn't done, and there are other couple of things. So he went and spoke at the Asthma Foundation. He said they were a bit hesitant at first, but he said they relaxed and listened because he gave the story of Peter, because it's quite remarkable that severe physiological asthma is conquered at 2.5. That's almost unheard of. In fact, medically they'll say it's impossible. He said after the meeting a lady came up to me and he said to me, it's as if this mother was describing Peter, severe physiological asthma, and they'd gone the full medical way. And this little boy, 5, same age as Peter, he was on steroids every day, steroid puffers. He was on a glycerin enema because the steroids had stopped his bowels moving, and he'd been given 2 weeks to live. And the naturopath said, and look at Peter. Whew. I got off the phone and sat there quietly for a moment and said, thank you, Father in heaven. Thank you for my son's life. Yes, it was hard work. It's hard work doing the hot and colds. It's hard work finding out how to distract your son when you give him an enema. So much easier to give a puffer. But it's almost buy now, pay later. So I paid first and then later I got the rewards, because the body's process of healing and upbuilding is gradual. And to the impatient it seems slow. I'm impatient. My daughter said to me one day when she was 5, Mum, I'm going to grow up in a minute. Well, she didn't grow up in a minute, did she? I want to be better in a minute. We all want to be better in the minute, but it actually takes time. And when you allow it take time, when you allow the body to go at the right pace, then you get true healing. And in page 127 of the Ministry of Healing, she says, the use of natural remedies requires an amount of care and effort that many are not prepared to give. Isn't that true? But she says, in the end, it will be found that nature, untrammeled, an old word for uninterfered with, does her work wisely and well. Because we've been designed to heal. And if we're not healing, we ask why. And if you're doing everything that's right, you might just have to do this. You might just now have to give it time. It was frustrating that Peter still had 5 hours of breathing distress, even after I've done everything. But I have to remember that it used to be 24 hours of breathing distress. But then it got a little bit less, and then a little bit less, until finally God gave me a lovely present as I was in heavy labour with my 6th child. Peter did not go into breathing distress. God is very good, and he has said in Psalm 32 verse 8, God said, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way that thou shalt go. I will guide you with mine eye. What a beautiful promise. Remember Isaiah 42 that I gave you this morning? He says, I will hold your hand, I will keep you. And so always pray. I always pray, Father, give me wisdom. Give me wisdom here. And it doesn't often come down like lightning. Often it's just you try a few things and you see where it goes. Sometimes it can be a very scary thing, stepping out. But you know, to me it's a scary thing to go into a hospital. And it's so sad that the very place you go to for help can actually not help. There are some excellent doctors, there are some excellent nurses, but there are some not so excellent, and there are some that are not so great. And if you found a good functional doctor who work with you, thank God every day. As we close, let us say a word of prayer to close our day. Father, thank you so much for what you've taught us today. Thank you so much for the simplicity of these natural methods of healing. I know, Father, that you are aware of each one of our situations. You brought us here, and you'll also travel home with us, and you have promised to guide us and to keep us and even hold our hand through our journeys. We thank you for that promise, and we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.